We're going to take a look at Romans 8:17, and this is what it says. If children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. We are children of God, and that makes you an exception. If we got what we deserved, we would get perfect justice, and perfect justice towards those who have rebelled and sinned and transgressed and broken God's laws and disobeyed and rejected him would be separation from him. And that's what we're facing. That's the sentence that sin gives us. It's the consequence of death and eternal separation from God. And so there's a lot of talk about justice, 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 and fighting for justice. But the truth is, when it comes to justice, none of us want it. None of us want God's justice to land on our head when it comes to our own relationship with him, to him, because we have broken relationship. We have sinned, and that causes us to be cut off from him. But you are an exception, and anyone who puts their faith in God and their trust in him becomes an exception to that. And that's what the gospel is all about. It's about God considering you um, an exception to the justice that is to come upon those who have rebelled and sinned against God. And um, I love this that the Bible uses the term um, children, heirs, and joint heirs with Christ. This is what Paul is speaking to the Roman church about. Children. Now, is there anyone in the world that would have an exception to to the normal way of operating than the child of well, for example, let's talk about a judge. We have a judge who sits on a bench all day long and he gives judgments out. He hands them out and he throws down the gavel and he says, you will receive this amount of sentence for this crime. But imagine one of his own children walk into the courtroom and his own children are sitting there on the stand. Would there be an exception made? Would he do everything in his authority as a judge to to um, to remain perhaps a good judge, and yet would he would he pull the strings or do whatever it took to make an exception for his child? And that sort of gets at the heart of the gospel. You see, God, he considers us children. He looks at us as as um, as his own son, Jesus Christ. If we put our faith in him, he says, "Oh, you're with Jesus, then you're in a special group. You're an exception. You are we're going to play by different rules with you because here's the thing. I already paid your price. I paid it in full. And so therefore, you don't have um, even if I throw down injustice, the price for your sin, you won't get the bill because the bill's already been paid. So he can remain just, and yet you can be the exception where you don't actually have to pay the the price for your sin because it's already been paid in full. And that is the advantage of being a child of God. And you have a choice. You don't have to be considered a child of God. But if that be the case, just know what that means. That means that you pay in full. But if you choose to put your faith in the work of Jesus Christ on the cross and that he conquered death for you by resurrecting from the dead, then what he paid in full would count for your penalty. And then not only does he call us children, and he did everything he could to get us out of that dead end road, he considers us heirs and co heirs with Christ. That means the inheritance, all that is God's, is given to Jesus Christ, and all that is Christ's belongs as to us as co-heirs. And I don't even know how to explain that. I can't imagine what that means, but I believe it and I look forward to it. I look forward to experiencing the reality of that what is Christ's is mine because of what he did. And by his grace and by his mercy, that he would make an exception for someone like me, someone like you. You are an exception. You are exceptional. Um, and it's all because of what Christ did. May those thoughts be encouraging to you today. And until next time on Morning Manna.